The Black Lions are a loyalist space marine chapter from the Imperium of Man, formed from the ranks of the Imperial Fists during the Second Founding. They fight with the same zeal and stubbornness of their parent Legion, and are a proud and noble chapter, delivering many worlds from the filthy alien and the faithless traitor. The Black Lions worship the Emperor as the god that the mortal subjects of the Imperium believe him to be. However, the Black Lions chapter hides a terrible truth that would see them damned should it ever be revealed. For the Black Lions are not the Sons of Dawn they claim to be. They are the sons of the traitorous Wordbearers Primarch, Lorgar. Originally named the Lions of Truth, this chapter of the Wordbearers Legion went out on its own path following the destruction of Monarchia. They mourned their fair city's destruction and were humbled by the Emperor's words, but they had not faltered in their faith. In fact, many among the Lions viewed the travesty as a test of their faith rather than chastisement, and continued the Great Crusade with renewed vigour in the belief of the Emperor's godhood. For decades, the Lions of Truth travelled through the Segmentum Pacificus, gradually making their way northwards, bringing world after world into compliance. However, rather than immediately moving on after liberating a world as they were instructed to, the Lions of Truth continued to spread the word of the Emperor's divinity to every human world they conquered. They did not build cathedrals or raise idols to the Emperor upon these planets. Instead, the Lions of Truth would discreetly leave behind trusted serfs and members of the Imperial cult to enlighten the population of the planet, along with copies of the Lectitio Divinitatis before leaving for the next world, often with fresh recruits taken from the planet's most promising sons to replace those space marines lost. This went on until the chapter arrived in the Evangelas sector several years before the events of the Horus heresy. The Evangelas subsector would prove to be the Lions of Truth's greatest conquest. 4 of its worlds, Evangela, Arekes, Mordelis, and Pharos, were at war with the industrial world of Sabaton. Sabaton had seceded from the 5 Worlds Union, now 4 Worlds Union, that bound the worlds together under a brutal overlord a decade earlier, igniting a war between it and the Union worlds. The Union had numbers, but the Sabatons had superior ships and better weapons, as well as rapid manufacturing capabilities that the other worlds did not. The Lion's fleet came into real space during a naval battle between the two forces, and lent its aid to the Sabaton fleet after several of the Union ships opened fire on them. After the battle, the Lions of Truth travelled to Sabaton, where an alliance between the two forces was forged. The Lions of Truth would assist the Sabatons in their war against the 4 Worlds Union, giving the Sabatons full jurisdiction over the Union worlds and their population, and in return, the Sabatons would join the Imperium, supply the Lions of Truth with weapons and raw material, and accept the Emperor as the one true god. Over the span of a single standard Terran year, the armies of the 4 Worlds Union were crushed beneath the combined might of the Sabatons and the Lions, and their worlds were conquered one after the other, their defiant rulers either executed or made to kneel before their new masters, as the Lions of Truth destroyed the temples and idols of false gods and purged any who refused to accept the Emperor's light. The campaign ended upon the Union world's capital of Evangelas. After the planet's orbital defense systems were destroyed, the Lions of Truth and their allies landed to find the planet in open revolt. Over the course of the campaign, the population of the world had suffered from famine and brutal treatment under the Union overlord. Evangelas was not a world of highborn nobles and sycophants, but of healers and scholars. Its native plants and thermal springs were famed throughout the subsector for their incredible healing properties. When the Union overlord made this world his capital, he was not loved by its people, and as the Lions drew closer, the overlord grew more desperate, and this in turn turned the dislike into open revolution. The Lions of Truth, Sabaton armies, and the rioting citizens of Evangelas stormed the overlord's palace as one, seeking to end this bloody 13-year war with his death. But the overlord would meet his end not by their hands. As the first of them entered his personal chambers, they bore witness to the tyrant being pushed off his balcony by a young nameless woman who gave her life to end his reign. The woman's selfless sacrifice would see her immortalized as the nameless saint of Evangelas by the whole subsector. With the overlord's death, the war for the subsector and the 4 Worlds Union was no more, but at a great cost. The worlds of the subsector had been ravaged by the war, and millions now lay dead on both sides. Cities had been razed to their foundations, and the fighting had been so fierce on some worlds that what human life remained struggled to survive. Responsible for a great deal of the damage and feeling immense pity for those mortal who had been without the Emperor's light for so long, the Lions of Truth took it upon themselves to help the devastated people of the subsector rebuild their homes and share with them the truth of the Emperor and his divine benevolence. In thanks both for their help in the war and for their assistance in rebuilding the damage caused by the war, the ruling Sabaton smithing guilds offered the Lions of Truth a planet for them to establish a fortress monastery in the subsector and recruit legionnaires from. For many years, the Lions of Truth would remain in subsector Evangelas, rebuilding what they had destroyed and bringing faith and hope to the billions of souls that resided within its boundaries. They felt great pride in their accomplishments and were eager to report this great success to their Primarch upon their return to the Legion, completely unaware that their father, Lorgar, had betrayed the Emperor and turned half the Primarchs against him, or that the Imperium had been thrown into a state of civil war. The Lions of Truth would remain ignorant of the Horus heresy for its entirety, focusing instead on rebuilding, spreading the Emperor's light to the small corner of the galaxy, and protecting it from those who sought to harm its people in the wake of the war. It would not be until 16M31 when a Sons of Horus battle group arrived in the subsector in an attempt to escape the vengeance of the Imperial Fist's Primarch Rogel Dawn, that the Lions of Truth would be exposed to the turmoil that had plagued the Imperium. The traitor Space Marines descended upon the hive world of Mordelis and attempted to capture its primary hive city of Varum, only to be caught completely by surprise when Adeptus Astartes of the Wordbearers Legion aided the defending humans and drove the Sons of Horus off-world. As the traitors prepared to unleash an orbital bombardment on the hive, the Imperial Fist's fleet appeared in the system, as did a patrol fleet of the subsector Navy forces, accompanied by the Lions of Truth battle barge, the Wrathful Roar. Trapped between these two forces, the Sons of Horus were obliterated by the combined fire of the two fleets. After the battle, the captain of the Wrathful Roar hailed the Imperial Fist's flagship, demanding an explanation to the unprovoked attack by the Sons of Horus. Instead, the Wrathful Roar was told to power down its weapons and void shields and prepare to be boarded. Confused, the captain asked why, only to have the order repeated, this time with the threat of not only the barge's destruction, but also the destruction of Mordelis. Under these threats, the Wrathful Roar reluctantly obeyed and powered down its systems, awaiting Imperial Fist arrival. When the Imperial Fists came aboard, they were besieged with questions and demands by the Lions of Truth, such as who the attackers were and why fellow Astartes had attacked an already compliant planet. The Imperial Fists were surprised by the questions as much as they were about the fact that the Wordbearers had defended a planet against a legion they fought alongside during the Horus Heresy. Sensing something was amiss, the Imperial Fist captain asked to be brought before the leader of the Lions of Truth. When asked why, he responded by only saying, "We must determine where your loyalties lie." The Lions were outraged. They insisted that they were always loyal to the Emperor and the Imperium, but the Imperial Fist captain only repeated his need to meet with their leader. When the captain was brought before Chapter Master Argel IV on the world of Salem, he told them of what had happened. He spoke of how the Emperor was betrayed by half his sons, the horrors of the Horus Heresy, the Siege of Terror, and the Emperor's entombment within the Golden Throne. All Lions of Truth present were beset by grief and despair at this news, and many fell to their knees and openly wept, while others clenched their fists as their eyes burned with fury. When the captain spoke of their father's fall, many wanted to refuse such a notion, stating that he would never betray the Emperor. Argel IV silenced his brother's voices with a raised hand, and walked over to the Imperial Fist captain. No sound was made as the two Astartes stared into each other's eyes, motionless for 2 full minutes, until Argel IV broke his gaze with a sorrowful look upon his face. For a moment he said nothing, but when he finally spoke, he addressed this chapter with a voice thick with righteous fury. In a grand speech, Argel IV denounced his Primarch and his Legion for their betrayal, expressing his rage and sorrow for not being there to aid in the fight against the traitors, and renewed his oaths of fealty to the Emperor of Mankind and to the Imperium, vowing to kill every heretic and fallen brother in his name. Upon its completion, all Lions of Truth had raised their weapons and fists into the air, chanting the speech's ending statement, "Spare no traitor! Spare no traitor!" Argel IV then ordered all symbols of the Legion and traces of their father to be destroyed, before asking the Imperial Fist captain that he meet with Rogel Dawn, so that he may petition his chapter's absorption into the Imperial Fist Legion. Though stunned by both the vigour of the speech and the request to join the Imperial Fists, the captain agreed and took Argal IV and his honour guard aboard his ship to meet with the Primarch, leaving the chapter to carry out its purging of its old heraldry and removal of their Primarch's name from every planet in the Evangelas subsector. None outside the Black Lions know the truth of their origins, as they are believed to be sons of Dawn. The purity of their gene seed and their terrible zeal in battle are prime contributors to this false belief. There are those, however, who question if the Black Lions truly are sons of Dawn, due to the fact that while nearly all successor chapters of the Imperial Fists have lost the use of their Betcher's gland and Susan membrane implants, the Black Lions suffer no such failures. This, along with the Black Lions' use of mortal auxiliaries in battle, has led to members of the Inquisition launching investigations into the Black Lions that bear little to no fruit, thanks to the chapter's thorough purging of its old iconography and countless acts of valour performed in the Emperor's name over the last 10,000 years. The only clue to their true heritage is in the axe rakes wielded by the chapter veterans that once belonged to members of the Ashen Circle that had been attached to the Lions of Truth chapter fleet, a detail that was overlooked thanks in part to the Imperium's own efforts in destroying all knowledge about the traitor legions in the years following the Siege of Terra. Only the Grand Master, Chief Librarian, Chaplains, Master of the Forge, Chief Apothecary, and Brotherhood captains are aware of their traitorous roots, and only after they have sworn a vow of secrecy so great that few in the chapter's history have dared break it. For should it be broken, not only shall the guilty Space Marine be executed, but his neophyte student, his personal serfs, and anyone else suspected to have been in contact with the traitor will be put to the sword as well. Those among the Black Lions who are aware of this truth embrace it with a mix of shame and pride. Shame for the fact that they are sons of a traitor who turned from his father's light, but pride for the fact that they are the only ones amongst the traitor legions, to their knowledge, who stayed true to their vows to the Emperor and did not turn. It drives them to perform mighty deeds of valour and honour in both the Emperor's name and their chapters, be it through righteous combat against the arch-enemy, or simply spreading his light to the despaired and faithless.